Imagine spending billions of dollars, years of research, and the world's best engineering talent to build a passenger jet that could rival Boeing and Airbus. Now imagine completing it, only to be told it can't leave your own backyard. That's the strange reality of China's C919, a jet that looks every bit as modern as any Western aircraft. It's sleek, efficient, and filled with some of the same components used in planes like the Airbus A320, engines from General Electric and Safran, flight controls from Honeywell, radar from Rockwell Collins. On paper, it's built to the highest international standards. In theory, it should already be flying to Paris, London, or New York, but it's not. It's stuck waiting for approval. Recently, the European Union Aviation Safety Agency, better known as EASA, announced it would delay giving China's C919 its official certification. This delay could last anywhere from 3 to 6 years, keeping the jet grounded internationally for the foreseeable future. To most people, that might sound like bureaucratic red tape, but in aviation, a delay like this isn't just paperwork, it's power, because without approval from Europe or the United States, an aircraft can't fly in most parts of the world, and when that aircraft happens to challenge a decades-long duopoly dominated by Airbus and Boeing, the story starts to look less like an engineering issue, and more like a geopolitical one. So why would a jet filled with already approved Western systems still be grounded? And what does this delay really say about who controls the skies? To answer that, we need to start with something simple, but incredibly powerful. The one thing every airplane needs before it can carry a single passenger across borders, its type certificate. Before a plane can take off and carry passengers around the world, it needs something far more important than fuel or engines. It needs permission. In aviation, that permission comes in the form of a document called a type certificate. Think of it like a passport for airplanes. Without it, no matter how advanced or safe a jet is, it can't legally fly commercial routes in most countries. Here's how it works. When a new aircraft is built, it has to go through countless tests, from wing stress and engine safety to software checks and emergency procedures. Once the plane passes all of that, it applies for certification from one of two main regulators, the FAA, or Federal Aviation Administration in the United States, and the EASA, or European Union Aviation Safety Agency, in Europe. These two agencies are the global gatekeepers of the skies. If either one of them approves an aircraft, dozens of countries automatically accept that certification too. Airlines can then lease, sell, or operate that jet internationally. Without their stamp, the plane is basically grounded within its home country. To picture this, imagine trying to travel abroad with a passport that only your country recognizes. You can visit local cities all you want, but once you reach the airport to go overseas, you're stopped. That's exactly the situation China's C919 finds itself in. It's built, tested, and certified domestically, but it doesn't yet hold the passport that would allow it to fly freely across international skies. This small piece of paper has enormous influence. It doesn't just decide what's safe, it decides who gets to compete in the trillion-dollar aviation market, because in this industry, safety standards and economic power often travel on the same flight path. So if the C919 followed all the rules and used parts that are already approved on Western planes, why is it still waiting at the gate? To understand that, we need to look inside the jet itself, at how China built it piece by piece using the very systems trusted by the West. When China decided to build the C919, it wasn't trying to reinvent the airplane from scratch. Instead, it made a clever, strategic choice to build its jet using the same parts and systems already trusted by Western regulators. In other words, if you can't beat the system, build within it. The C919 isn't some mysterious experimental project tucked away in a hidden hangar. It's packed with technology from some of the most respected aerospace companies in the world. Its engines, the Kawendauber Sidar, Eisenbauer Nam, Beitentaiba de Auipar, Andowed Shijin Nan, Endo 1C Simsnyder, come from CFM International, a joint venture between America's General Electric and France's Safran. These are the same engines that power the Airbus A320neo, which flies every day across Europe and the United States. Its flight control systems are from Honeywell, a major U.S. aerospace supplier. Its radar and communication systems are from Rockwell Collins. The fuel systems, landing gear, even the tires, all sourced from familiar Western names like Parker, Hannafin, and Michelin. In short, the C919 was designed to speak the same technical language as the Airbus and Boeing jets that dominate the skies today. China didn't cut corners. It followed the rule book, both engineering-wise and diplomatically. In fact, in 2019, China even signed a formal aviation safety agreement with the European Union, known as the China-EU Bilateral Aviation Safety Agreement. The goal was simple. If China met EASA's standards, Europe would recognize its certification. Everything was aligned. The components were certified. The systems were familiar. The agreements were in place. And yet, despite all that preparation, EASA recently said the C919 might still need 3 to 6 more years of additional review before it can be approved for European skies. That raises a simple but powerful question. If a plane built to global standards, filled with already approved parts, and backed by a legal agreement is still being delayed, then what's really going on? To find out, we need to look at what this delay actually means, and whether it's really about safety, or something else entirely. Officially, the European Union Aviation Safety Agency, or EASA, says the delay in certifying China's C919 is about process and verification. That means they're still checking every document, every system, and every performance test to make sure the plane meets European safety standards. On paper, it sounds fair. After all, aviation safety is something no one should compromise. But when you look closer, the story gets more complicated. Remember, most of the C919's critical systems, the engines, flight controls, and avionics, are already certified in Europe and the US. These same components are flying safely on thousands of Airbus jets every day. So if those parts are trusted, what exactly is EASA still verifying? That's where politics begins to enter the cockpit. Aviation isn't just about flying. It's about national prestige, economic influence, and global trust. Boeing represents America. Airbus represents Europe. For decades, these two giants have ruled the skies, not only through technology but through deep global networks of maintenance, certification, and finance. Now imagine a third player, backed by the Chinese government, aiming to challenge both. If Europe certifies the C919, it's not just approving another plane, it's legitimizing China's aerospace industry on the world stage. It's saying, yes, we trust your engineers, your regulators, and your factories. That's a massive shift. One that could open the door for China to sell jets globally and compete directly with Boeing and Airbus. And that's where safety reviews can quietly turn into strategic roadblocks. Because in global aviation, a delay isn't just a delay, it's a competitive weapon. Every extra year the C919 waits for certification is another year Airbus and Boeing dominate the market unchallenged. So while EASA insists it's just following procedure, many analysts suspect the delay might be less about wings and engines, and more about geopolitical turbulence. After all, Europe is balancing a tricky equation, keeping business ties with China while staying aligned with US strategic interests. And that balance might be exactly why the C919's paperwork seems to be taking forever to clear. For China, EASA's hesitation isn't just a technical setback, it's a strategic loss worth billions. Every month the C919 remains uncertified in Europe. Airbus and Boeing keep signing new contracts, filling the sky with their aircraft while the C919 stays mostly confined to domestic routes. Let's put this in perspective. By 2040, the global commercial jet market is projected to be worth over $7 trillion. That's thousands of planes, maintenance contracts, and jobs. Europe's certification, if granted, would instantly open a massive door for China, giving the C919 credibility in global markets like Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia, where many countries follow EASA's lead when approving new aircraft. Without that stamp of approval, the C919 faces a chain reaction of restrictions. Even if it flies safely, most airlines outside China can't buy or insure it easily. Leasing companies, which handle the majority of airline fleets, won't take the financial risk of adding an uncertified jet to their portfolio, and maintenance firms can't legally service it in EASA-regulated countries. So, in a way, Europe doesn't need to ban the C919. Delaying approval already keeps it grounded globally. But this delay also comes with a price, not just for China, but for the world. Because the longer Europe hesitates, the longer airlines are forced to rely on two Western suppliers that already dominate over 90% of the market. That lack of competition keeps aircraft prices high and slows innovation. If the C919 were approved, it could introduce real competition, push prices down, and give airlines and especially smaller ones and dots and new options. And this is where the story starts to feel less about safety and more about control. Control over the skies, control over global markets, and control over who gets to define what safe really means. Because if China can build a plane that meets every international standard, yet still waits years for recognition, then perhaps the certification system itself isn't as neutral as it appears. China isn't just sitting and waiting for Europe's approval, it's doubling down on self-reliance. If the message from the West is, "We don't trust your systems," then Beijing's response is clear: fine, we'll make our own. The C919 project has become more than just an airplane. It's now a symbol of national independence, especially in high-tech manufacturing. China's aviation authorities and engineers have learned an important lesson from this delay. As long as they depend on Western components, foreign regulators can slow them down, so China is moving to replace every imported part with one made domestically. The biggest example is the engine. Right now the C919 uses the LEAP-1C, made by a US-French joint venture. But China is already developing a homegrown replacement, the CJ1000A, built by the state-owned company AECC, Aero Engine Corporation of China. It's designed to match Western efficiency standards, and once it's certified, it will give China complete control over its aircraft production. And it doesn't stop there. China is also working on its own avionics systems, flight control software, and navigation technologies, many of which are being tested in universities and research labs under COMAC's supervision. By 2030, Beijing hopes that the next generation of C919s will be 100% Chinese-made, from the nose cone to the tail fin. This shift is part of a broader national plan called Made in China 2025, which aims to reduce dependence on Western technology in key industries, not just aviation, but also semiconductors, electric vehicles, and renewable energy. In other words, every delay, every sanction, every extra review only pushes China further toward independence. It's almost ironic. The more the West tries to hold back China's rise in aviation, the more determined China becomes to build everything on its own. And once that happens, once China no longer needs foreign engines or software, no Western regulator will be able to delay its ambitions again.